Good morning and welcome to the DeFuniak. Today is the first of probably a few and a special mini-series for covering a 3-week trip from California to Orlando, going to Disney World and Universal Studios Orlando, and then back. And we're doing it in the Model 3. So we're partly documenting Orlando and the theme parks, and then we're also really focusing on the trip itself. So we just left home probably about 30 minutes ago, and our first stop for the night is going to be Willcox, Arizona. Let me flip the camera around and we'll take a look at the map. So we've got 2 charging stops on the way. There's kind of the overview to the first stop. And our first stop will be just on the other side of the California-Arizona border in Quartzsite, and then another stop in Casa Grande, and then stopping in Willcox for the night. Total trip for the day, just under 500 miles, and it's a little less than 8 hours to do it. Oh, actually, the start from home was a little bit over 500 miles, and there's kind of the route for the day. Got it. We're stopping just past Tucson. That'll be for the night. So we'll check out all the superchargers as we get there, kind of see what's in the area, and try and help out the at least the fellow Tesla drivers, and join us on this experience. And we just crossed the Colorado River, and welcome to Arizona. That's 1 state down, 8 to go. 9 total states on this trip, and we are about 15 minutes from Quartzsite for our first supercharge. We made it to the supercharger in Quartzsite. We averaged about 75 miles an hour all the way here. We pulled in at 106 miles left on the range with 191, call it 192 miles driven. So pretty much exactly what was expected, because we left at about 310 predicted. It says obviously we don't have enough to get to Casa Grande right now, but that's why we're here to charge. And there's not really a whole lot around. The chargers are actually in a Carl's Jr. parking lot, and then there's a Burger King and a Mobile, looks like, just on the other side of the street. It's definitely coffee time and probably Impossible Burger time from Burger King, or a Beyond Burger from Carl's Jr. So let's plug in so we can get back on the road. And we're plugged in, and let's go see what we're getting. They only started preconditioning the battery probably about 15 minutes before we got here. It's up to 48 kilowatt hours, or kilowatts, 204 miles an hour right now. So I jumped over 2 spots, and now we're charging much better. We're at, call it 90 kilowatts, 89, 380 per mile, or 380 miles per hour with 30 minutes instead. And there's a sign right there. It actually says superchargers coming soon. There's 28 version 3 superchargers due in here at Quartzsite at some time in hopefully the near future. All right, it's time to go. We're up to 278 miles of range, and we've got 188 miles to go to the next superchargers, which was Casa Grande. Here we are at the Casa Grande chargers, and as you can see, there's a little bit of a line. There's only 6 chargers here. It looks like one's actually out and not working, so they really only have 5, and there's 2 Model 3s in front of us waiting. So we're number 3 in line right now. Hopefully it shouldn't take too long, but we definitely have a buffer. We're at 75 miles of range remaining right now. if I can get this to focus. There we go, 75 miles of range left. And wants us to charge for about 25 minutes to continue on to our first stop of the trip. Overnight stop would be Willcox, Arizona. The other thing I did fail to mention a little earlier was the actual distance of this entire trip. It's 10 miles shy of an even 2,500 miles one way, so it'll be a round trip, 5,000 mile trip that we're documenting, and we're just a couple hundred miles into it. There we go, charger's open, and blue went for that green. Huh, there's a random cat running around the parking lot. And now we're green, over 120 kilowatts. Outstanding. 572 miles per hour. So what we've got in the area here, there's a Chase Bank, which isn't really helpful. Just on the other side of the street, there's an In-N-Out, Buffalo Wild Wings. There's a Subway I can see. Here's a restaurant I'm not really familiar with called, I can't even see the name of it, Culver's. And then there's a Raising Cane's just over there, and then a Walgreens kind of in the same parking lot. And then it looks like it's generally like a promenade on the other side of the highway. Could be walking distance. Not quite sure where we're gonna eat, but we'll find somewhere around here. And we're back on the road after leaving the Casa Grande supercharger. Now we're heading for Willcox, Arizona, which will be our first overnight stay. And the supercharger there just happens to be right in the parking lot of the hotel that we're staying at. So according to this, we've got right about 2 hours to get there, 140 miles, and we've got 218 miles of range left, so should be plenty to get there without an issue. And then we'll basically supercharge and then just move the car over to a regular parking spot and turn in for the night, and then get back on the road tomorrow. So the last part of the trip from the Casa Grande supercharger was 281 watt hours per mile. Not the most efficient that we ever get here, but we were going about 75 the whole way, and then it also was kind of uphill a decent amount, which is why it kind of is a little higher, but that's okay. We've got it plugged in. But again, since we are staying at this hotel, we can just start unpacking the car, and then once it's done, just come unplug and relocate the car. Good morning and welcome back to day 2 of the road trip. We're just getting ready to leave Willcox, Arizona. We're going to be passing through New Mexico and then stopping in Texas tonight. Forgive my pronunciation. It's like Ozona or Ozona, Texas. Supercharged to 90% last night, had about 283. This morning we had lost about 10 miles of range because it's about 35 degrees outside. And you know, if any Sentry mode went off, so we're at 273 when we came out, plugged it in and kicked it up to 100%. We're not going to let it get all the way there, just to give a little bit more range. We'll be taking off here, and not sure what our first stop is, but I'll update as we go. So let's get on and continue with this experience. All right, we've got it unplugged. El Paso is that first stop that I couldn't remember. Says we're going to get there with about 9%, wants us to charge for 25 minutes, and we've got 284 miles of range, so basically right around what 90% would be. And then we're stopping in Van Horn, Texas. That looks like a long stop. And then Ozona, Texas. 9 hours for the whole day, 581 miles, a little bit longer than I think yesterday was. So let's go ahead and hit the road so we can get this going. There's 2 full states down, and hello, New Mexico. So we had a slight change of plans. We didn't want to chance running a little low on the way to El Paso, so we threw an intermediate stop in Deming, New Mexico at the supercharger. It is right here at the Valero. Let's see if we can find this spot. Oh, there they all are. Yep, right up against the building. 100. Looks like we're peaking out around just above 100. Still creeping up though. Not bad, and we are the only car here right now. Alright, and that was just a really quick stop at Deming. Pretty much long enough to go in, use the facilities, and buy a couple things. Walked right out and left. We've got 225 miles of range with 90 miles to get to El Paso. So here we are back on the road. Now leaving New Mexico, and welcome to Texas. Drive friendly, the Texas way. Right next to the El Paso trading post. So we just got to the El Paso supercharger. It's in a parking lot of Rudy's Country Store Barbecue. There's a Carl's Jr. It actually looks like it's on the other side of the intersection. Wing Daddy's Express, Jack in the Box, and then it's right next to another Holiday Inn Express. Here's the Hampton Inn's right behind it. This has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 superchargers, like a lot of them do. These ones, half of them are vehicle charging only, and the other half is 60-minute general parking. Don't need a long stop for the charge, but we're gonna make this our lunch stop as well, and then on to the next stop. All right, let's unplug. Let's hit the road. We just got to Van Horn supercharger. Still wants us 40 minutes now instead of 45. Got the blue light. And there's the green light. Actually, let's go take a look and see what this sign says. So what it looks like it's saying is that the 3 here with signs are out, but any of the ones without the signs, which as you can see looking at it, they're lit up, those ones are working. Just the ones with the signs are not working. And supposedly, I guess they contacted Tesla, and at some point Tesla will send somebody out to try and fix them. So if you're in the area passing through for Fort Stockton, as of at least right now, in the middle of January, there are 5 of the 8 stations working. So you are good to stop here. What a surprise, vehicle charging only. They all say that one is definitely not charging. So upon closer inspection, I was actually wrong. The SUV is parked in the spot next to the first supercharger spot. I always get confused since the chargers are in the middle of the 2 spots of where the first spot actually is. So that's apologies to the SUV driver if you happen to watch the channel, and thank you for not parking in a supercharger spot. Good morning and welcome to day 3 of the road trip. We're just getting ready to leave out of Ozona, Texas. Again, apologies for the pronunciation. Ultimate trip tonight is putting us in Baton Rouge, 674 miles, 10 hours and 55 minutes. We're trying to get started a little earlier. Our first stop for charging is just in Junction, Texas. It's only about 90 miles down the road. So we only supercharged a little bit this morning. Looks like we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 stops on today. We're going Junction, Texas, Flatonia, Texas, Channelview, Texas, Lake Charles, Louisiana, and then ending up in Baton Rouge. So let's go ahead and hit the road. Alright, so we made it to Junction, Texas. Let's see. Looks like there's one of the, 8 out. But there's nobody here. And let's see. Wants us to charge for 30 minutes to get to Flatonia. Right now we'd get there with negative 50%. So this would be a decent charging stop. It's at a gas station at a Chevron. It's raining a little bit, so I'll try to go pretty quick. There's a Chevron behind me, and then it's right next to a Motel 6. And we chose a pull-in spot this time. So let's get it plugged in. There we go. And we're back in the car, so we're out of the rain. Ugh. So we made an unexpected or unplanned stop at San Antonio. We didn't want to push it, but I'm curious. We'll go all the way. I want to see what we would have made. Well, now it's changed. Now it wants us to go to Columbus, Texas. So let's do this because I'm really, really curious. Let's take a look. Zoom in. I think, yeah, is that the one? Flatonia. Let's just hit it and see. Minus 1%. So for a little bit I was driving 75 and then the rain came, so I slowed down to as low as 65, but then the wipers and everything, so probably a good decision to stop here. So let's go plug in. It only wants us to charge for 15 minutes, but we're probably going to make a lunch out of it too. So we'll get, oh, it is muggy and warm out. Gross. It is almost 70 degrees and it is like 1,000% humidity. I do not miss this about the South. All right, we're plugged in. And we'll be back shortly. All right, we made it to Flatonia, Texas, supercharger. It was only about a little over an hour from the last stop. Looks like there's probably about eight chargers, maybe 6. Let's see what the screen says. 8 of 8 available. Nobody's here charging, so it should be no issue. It's at a pretty big Valero. Get a shot of it, and I saw a billboard about 20 miles back advertising their phenomenal bathrooms. So we'll plug it in. This is going to be a real quick stop to get to our next spot, and then we'll get right back on the road. All right, that was a real quick stop at Flatonia, where we're gonna go ahead and head out for Channelview, Texas. We're leaving now because it's 2:15 and we want to get through Houston before rush hour hits. That was something we ran into the first day of running into a big city in the middle of rush hour. So we should get there at about 4:15, which is just on the other side of Houston. So we should be fine. And then we're basically no big cities for the rest of the trip, or for the rest of the day, until we at least get to our final stop tonight, which will be in the evening time. So there should be no traffic there. So we'll go ahead and get right back on the road. we've got an estimated 204 miles of range to go, all of 127 miles to Lake Charles for our last stop. I was wrong earlier. We're stopping Lake Charles and then on to Baton Rouge. So on the road we go. As I'm sure you can hear, there's pelting rain outside. You can see it in the camera. Autopilot is definitely doing its job. I can see the lines, but there is a reduced visibility. But it seems to be, obviously holding the lines quite well, which is something I've noticed in California that it doesn't do when it rains. The road gets really shiny, and the cameras can't really find the lines different from the shining pavement, so it has a really hard time staying centered. But out here on the Interstate 10 in the middle of Texas, it's doing phenomenally well staying in the lines. And after 880 miles, give or take, in Texas, it was a little hard to see. It was just a little tiny sign. Now we're in Louisiana. We'll wait and see if at the other end of this bridge they have an actual, like, welcome to Louisiana. But we did officially cross the state line as we're going over the Sabine River. And there it is in French. And the English is almost worn off. Welcome to Louisiana. 880, at least the last exit said 880. So it's about almost 900 miles on the 10 all the way through Texas. So we made it to the Lake Charles superchargers. As you can see, they're almost at a Sonic. They're right next to the Sonic, and there's a lot of different things in this area. Too many to even list. We could look at the map here. There's an Olive Garden, O'Charlie's bar. There's a Target in this parking lot as well. Let's see what else. Lots of shopping. There's also let's see, for food places, I saw, oh, there we go. There's like a Mongolian grill and a Chinese restaurant, all kinds of options. So one of the better places we've seen with the supercharger on this trip so far. And it only wants us to be here for about 20 minutes, but we're going to eat dinner as well. Maybe run into Target real quick, make the most of this stop. So it was a real quick stop at Lake Charles supercharger. We just got some Sonic to go, used the facilities, and then went right back out on the road, because as it is, our estimated time, let Tesla talk, our estimated time of getting to Baton Rouge is 8:52, and that's to the charger, which is not anywhere near where we're staying. So we have to go charge and then drive over to the casino hotel we're staying in for the night. So it's going to be a late evening, so we decided to get right back out on the road. Morning, and welcome to day 5 of the road trip. We are back at the Baton Rouge supercharger. We only plugged in for just a few minutes last night, just to give it a buffer while it was sitting in the garage at the casino and the hotel. So now we're back to not top it off, but get charged to continue on. Today's one of our shortest days of driving, as we're stopping in Fort Walton Beach for the night, but we're also going to be stopping in Mobile to go tour the USS Alabama. It's a battleship they have kind of docked there, as set up as a museum. So we'll charge up a little bit here and then hit the road so we can get to Mobile while it's still daylight. We decided to sleep in a little bit this morning to catch up on some lost sleep after the last couple of days of long driving. So we decided to make a short trip today and see a little bit of the sights. So come along and continue on this experience. Here we are pulling into the Slidell superchargers, Slidell, Louisiana. Looks like there's 8. They're not really with anything, so doesn't seem like it's going to be likely they would ever get iced. They're basically right in a Pier 1 Imports. parking lot, and it's a large shopping center. As we go around, you can see like there's a Dick's over there, PetSmart, Michael's, Kohl's, Best Buy over there. So you can kind of park here, you know, for 30 minutes or so while you're shopping in this general area. Wait for the, there we go, and we're in. We'll get another pano of everything. There's a Dillard's over there as well. Smoothie King, so you can plug in and then go grab a smoothie. Massage Envy, I guess you could get a short massage while you're waiting. And then there's a Capital One right behind us. TJ Maxx over there further. All in all, quite the large strip mall. Then after this stop in Slidell, where our next stop will be the Mobile supercharger, but we'll probably save that for after the battleship, so we can make it with daylight and time to see it, because it's still getting dark around 5:30. We'll go check out the ship and then hit the supercharger on our way to into Florida. Welcome to Mississippi, birthplace of America's music. There's a billboard for where we're heading to, explore the mighty A, the USS Alabama, and there's the Alabama state line. And welcome to Sweet Home, Alabama. And they even advertise who the governor is. So as expected, Mississippi was quite quick to go through. So that makes 6 out of the 7 complete. We're in the 7th, and tomorrow or actually later today, we will be in the 8th and final state across the country before we turn around and do it all again in a week. The Mobile supercharger. It's at the Bel Air Mall. It's also known as the Shops at Bel Air.
Hey, my superhero game.
They've got quite a few chargers here, it looks like.
I used it in my car seat.
Uh-oh. Backing up into the spot, there's one other Model 3 using it right now, and other than that, it is empty. So we just noticed, as somebody on PlugShare had mentioned, 2B is broken, and sure enough, it is. Looks like it snapped right off. So we'll grab this one and plug it in, and it looks like you can actually, you can park on either side of here to get charging, which is interesting because they don't have double the chargers for it, so they can support twice as many cars as chargers. And then, as somebody else mentioned on PlugShare, for your convenience, while you're charging, security can provide an escort to the mall. You just call this number and they'll drive over and give you a lift. Just missed the sign because I actually thought it was a little further up, but just passed through the Alabama-Florida boundary. So we're now in Florida, the last and final state of the trip. So we've completed 7 states, and we're in number 8 now. Morning, and welcome to the real day 5 of the road trip. I was a little off on my days, but today is day 5. It's Saturday morning. We're on our way from Fort Walton Beach to St. Augustine for the night. Not necessary for part of the trip, but we did want to check out the oldest city in the U.S., which supposedly is also one of the most haunted cities in the U.S. Here in Fort Walton Beach, we did actually stay in an Airbnb. It's the RV you see right behind me. It was an excellent stay. We have an RV as well. This is actually a tow trailer. It's much nicer than ours, but I absolutely recommend Airbnb. I've had nothing but positive experiences with it, and it saves a little bit of money sometimes from just a standard hotel and changes it up from just staying in a regular run-of-the-mill hotel room. So come along and let's continue on this experience. And we're pulling into DeFuniak Springs supercharger. There's 5 spots and it says 3 of 5 working. So we'll see if or 3 of 5 available, so we'll see if some of them maybe aren't working. But we just pulled into a random one. Let's go take a look and see what we got. And we're charging. So we're here at the DeFuniak Springs supercharger. Different than a lot of other ones, there's really nothing around. It's kind of like an old historic downtown DeFuniak Springs. In fact, you can see the sign right there, kind of a map of it. But what is right here, it's right over my shoulder, the brick building, is the Praline and Company Gelato Shop. We just went in there to use the restroom and they were just opening. In fact, we kind of interrupted coffee with a friend. But Renee, I assume the owner, very, very nice woman and extremely good gelato. They have a couple sorbet flavors, which were dairy-free, and they even had a coconut flavor one, cookies and cream, or coconut milk-based, which was completely vegan, and then some traditional gelato flavors, all real, nothing fake in it at all. Extremely good. I absolutely recommend getting some there if you happen to use this stop. But we're all done supercharging, so we're going to unplug and head on down the road to Tallahassee. All right, and here we are pulling into the supercharger, the Live Oak supercharger in Florida. It's at a Busy Bee gas station, which also has a Burger King and a Dunkin' Donuts. Other than that, it's pretty isolated here, right off the freeway. There's stuff on the other side of the freeway, but definitely not walking distance or even walkable, probably. So we are at our last and final supercharger stop of the trip. We're at, forgive the pronunciation, but Altamonte, Florida. Maybe about an hour or so from Orlando, maybe a little less. It's quite a busy supercharger where there's only one other spot left. It's at some sort of a shopping center. So we'll get out, plug in, we'll see what it is. It's probably going to be about half since we're surrounded by Teslas. But because we're so close to Orlando, this is probably only going to be a 5 or 10 minute stop since our hotel that we're staying in has destination chargers. So we just want to be able to get to Orlando. 47 kilowatts, 202 miles an hour. In fact, let's see. 32 miles, so a little over, about 48 minutes, but only about 30 miles to get to the hotel. So well, I would be comfortable leaving here with maybe 100 miles range, so that way we can get there and then be able to plug in. that's on the drive to here, just over 2,500 miles. We're going to move that out of the way to stay at full wall. Fine, and then we drove around in the city sometimes. And then our total for efficiency was about 263 watt hours per mile. So we're going to make sure to reset the trip meter on the way home, even though the mileage may vary, and see what it takes efficiency-wise to get back from Florida to California. So that'll be a totally different video. It'll be part 2 of the road trip. A separate part all by itself will be the actual theme parks themselves. We've got Disney World coming up. We've got Universal Studios Orlando coming up. We may even try to look at some other things around that aren't even theme park related and maybe get some videos on that. But we thank everybody for joining us on this cross-country experience part 1. If you like the video, please give us a thumbs up, consider subscribing, and make sure to click the bell so that way you get notifications of all of our future videos and join us on the next experience.